Labour Party is denouncing and condemning PNP President Mark Golding for again showing his willingness to mislead and make false statements in his desperation for political power. While on the political platform recently and during the passage of just a few seconds, Mark Golding made 3 false, manipulative and disingenuous statements about the Stocks and Securities Limited issue, the SSL matter. Golding stated, and I quote, "There was a massive fraud going on in there when Nigel Clark was the Minister of Finance," end quote. In making that statement, the PNP president appeared to pretend to ignore confirmation from local authorities and word from a confessed fraudster who is now before the courts that fraud at SSL was going on from as far back as 2012 when the PNP was in office. Golding also ignored a known fact that the Financial Services Commission, the FSC, had expressed concern about governance at the entity from as far back as 2013 when the PNP administration, of which he, Mark Golding, was a member, was in office. Golding also ignored media reports which quoted relevant documents as revealing that shortly after our sprint legend Usain Bolt sent his principal investment to SSL in 2012, it was fleeced. In another vile, reckless, and misleading comment, Mark Golding stated, and I quote, "The Prime Minister had his money in there and take it out before it collapsed," end quote. That, of course, is patently false. The Prime Minister had invested in a bond at SSL from as far back as 2008, which matured in 2021. As a commercial lawyer, Mark Golding knows that when bonds mature, they are often liquidated as a natural course of action. Yet he sought to mislead his audience into believing that Prime Minister Holness took preemptive action somehow ahead of the collapse of SSL. That is nothing but a cheap tactic by Mark Golding, who, in a new law, has resorted to peddling via the political platform false information and, of course, is spreading so via PNP bloggers and vloggers on social media. In a third distasteful and misleading comment, Mark Golding remarked, and I quote yet again, "It pains my heart what the government is doing to the great Usain Bolt," end quote. The fact is, the government of Jamaica has taken unprecedented action in leaving no stone unturned in a bid to secure justice for all investors in SSL, including, of course, our sporting icon Usain Bolt. Golding made his comments despite knowing that the government hired a leading international forensic auditing firm to assist in the probe. No political administration in Jamaica has before sought international assistance to probe a case of local fraud. The case is now before the criminal court, with one person being charged so far. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Financial Investigations Division, FID, are in dialogue as they work toward a determination as to whether there are legal grounds to take additional action against any person or persons in this matter. There are also cases before the civil court. Mark Golding knows it is unlawful for the government of Jamaica to interfere in processes being embarked upon by our law enforcement agencies, the prosecutorial arm of the state, and our judiciary, which also have a role to play in making a determination regarding restitution to people affected by fraud. Yet he, Mark Golding, sought to use a political platform to exploit the name of one of Jamaica's greatest sons by pushing and fueling a false narrative in a clear and desperate effort to score cheap political points. Given the tone set by their president, Mark Golding, it is no surprise that PNP surrogates, including bloggers and vloggers, have found themselves in legal trouble for telling lies about SSL and suggesting that government officials had a hand to play in fleecing investors. This is a bold and barefaced falsehood being spread by Mark Golding and the PNP, which clearly have no plans to move Jamaica forward and has therefore resorted to peddling deception, falsehoods in a bid to mislead and trick the Jamaican people into giving them political power. They must be denounced and rejected in no uncertain terms.